All right, guys, it is time. We are live. Hola, ¿cómo estás? I'll get to that in a little bit, Ben, why I said that. This is the Sherdog live recap show for UFC St. Louis. Derrick Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. I'm your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, my man?
I've been better. We'll get to these fights in order, but off the dome, this is one of my worst nights picking fights since we've been doing this show. It's definitely my worst in like probably a solid year. But this is a sport that if you follow it long enough will break your heart and possibly break your wallet if you're a bettor, which is why I don't bet very much. Yeah, but hey, I was right about this fight, so let's talk about the headliner.
I had a very strong night at 5-7 for the night. I think every close decision did not go the way I picked it, but it is what it is. That's how it goes sometimes. Ben, before we get into it, St. Louis, city of St. Louis, you are a world traveler. How long have you spent in St. Louis?
I have spent a couple of overnights in St. Louis because I grew up on the East Coast. I went to college in the West. And so to and from, it's a good Midwest stopover. I've been in St. Louis many times. I cannot say I've taken the town in.
All right. So put it on the spot. You are a man who live in Texas. Who's got the better ribs, St. Louis or Texas?
Oh, St. Louis. Texas barbecue is about beef. Like you come down to Texas, you get the smoked brisket. Anyone can do ribs. Like ribs are delicious. Go to North Carolina, South Carolina, they got great ribs. You go to Georgia, great ribs. You go to St. Louis, absolutely. Kansas City can do ribs. Come down to Texas for brisket.
You know who can do ribs? I can do ribs. Anybody knows I can do some ribs. Let's get into it.
That storied Rhode Island barbecue. I'm gonna come up.
That's right. We're taking over slowly. Let's get right into it. We talk about ribs. You can't see any of the ribs on the main event. We had the guys might, but eat some ribs. Derrick Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Derrick Lewis winning by 3rd round TKO. Out of all the fights we're about to break out, this is this is your first time ever watching the show. This is kind of how we do. We usually go about 2 hours. We usually go about a half hour in the main event, and then it kind of gets, a little less. Each fight goes down. We're a half hour in the main event, 15 minutes co-main event, 10 minutes, and slowly trickle down. We breeze through the prelims. If I was ranking fights I want to talk about in depth, I don't know if this fight would be in my top 5.
Me either. And having said that, it's more interesting than I expected it to be. Like if you just woke me up Sunday morning and said, yeah, Lewis won my knockout like less than a minute into the 3rd round, I would have a picture in my mind of what the fight looked like. And we actually took kind of a roundabout way to get there. I still don't know if it was a good fight, but I'm with you. It was more interesting than I expected, and I still don't want to spend half an hour talking about it.
Yeah. So I'll say this. I didn't learn anything. So that's like the thing, when I think about a fight, I want to learn something. I learned that Derrick Lewis can still hit hard. I learned that Rodrigo Nascimento is a C-level heavyweight. That's what I knew heading into this fight. Do I feel better about Derrick Lewis moving forward? Not really. I mean, I feel the same. Like one of the guys, somebody posted and I apologize for not remembering people's name. I'm not doing it on purpose. Someone posted in the chat saying, kind of had beef with us saying on the previous show that Derrick Lewis will never be like a UFC champion. I still stand by that, but you can't do you feel better? Like, yeah, he's on a winning streak right now, but do you think he's going to, I can't see him going through a run. I can't see him winning 4 more fights or something like that and getting a title shot and winning.
No, with the possible exception of Tai Tuivasa, everyone who's beaten Lewis in the past 2 or 3 years, I still think would beat him.
Yeah, I agree.
He fights Jailton Almeida again in 3 months. We get another terrible fight and Lewis gets washed again.
Yeah. So let's talk about Derrick Lewis. So he's always had this, innate ability. I mean, he's got the most knockouts in UFC history. So obviously his power is legendary if he just touches you. Sometimes he doesn't even land clean. We've said this a million times about Derrick Lewis, and he knocks you out. Who told him that he was a wrestler? Like, he came out wrestling, looking for I know it wasn't his corner, in fairness. His corner wasn't telling him to wrestle. They were telling him
his corner is Bob Perez and Larry Taekwon Crow. Now, if you're not a regional Texas guy and you don't know the legend of Larry Taekwon Crow, he didn't get that nickname because he's a wrestler.
No, that's not that famous famous Taekwondo style of wrestling. That's the new
but here's the thing. I'm on our previews and sometimes on our recaps, I'm almost always in favor of fighters throwing in the threat of wrestling just as something to give their opponent something to think about. I liked Lewis's takedown in the first round. Like, again, just the last thing Nascimento would have expected. It worked. He got him down. He did some damage. He tried it again in the second round and just about threw away the fight. Like, he shot this horrible takedown. They were both sweaty, slid off each other. Lewis is down, and Nascimento's literally 5 seconds later, he's got his back and he's working on a rear naked choke.
Yeah, exactly. So as soon as, I'm glad you pointed that in the second round. Like, he almost lost the fight going for a takedown, a step across takedown, which is a high. Like, not only is he trying to wrestle, but he's going for moves that put you at risk. Like, he actually fell in a better position than a lot of guys do when they do a step around, lateral drop. If you don't clear your hips, you don't hit, really push in and get the guy up. You kind of have to use your hips to get him up in the air, and then they go over you. A lot of times people who try to hit a lateral drop land on their back with the guy completely on top. He actually fell in a better position and still, almost got his back taken, almost got spent. One thing about Derrick Lewis, other than Sergey Spivak, he's always kind of showed really good submission defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't want to say he was like close to losing, but it was the worst position he was the entire night.
Yeah.
As soon as he realized, like, oh, wait, I'm freaking Derrick Lewis. I punched really hard. He knocked him out.
Yes, he sure did. And once he kind of quit screwing around, Nascimento didn't have much for him. I know the UFC booth was talking about Nascimento being a decorated grappler and stuff, but being just another good topside grappler who is clumsy at getting the fight to the ground is not going to make him much hay, even at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Even in this fight,
even
in this fight, it took Lewis trying for an ill-advised takedown for Nascimento really to make much headway at all.
Yeah. But when we talk about heavyweight, like you said, he's a good heavyweight grappler. Like, is he though? Like, who's good? Curtis Blades. The guy who just beat Derrick Lewis.
Spivak.
Spivak's okay.
Almeida.
Gelatin Almeida. I guess John Jones, though I we've seen him wrestling Cyril gone, but
Aspinall. Dev points out. Dev, our unofficial third leg, points out that Aspinall.
Never heard of him.
I mean, we never got to see him really, really fight Blades, but there's a chance that he might be the best combination of wrestler and grappler in the division.
So, I mean, I don't put him anywhere near the category of grapplers than the guys we just named. Like, I don't even have him in the next. If we're doing tiers, I don't even have him in the next tier down. I have him 3 or 4 tiers down. Like, there's a humongous gap between them. And I don't. Do you agree or disagree? Like, I have nowhere near those guys.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I want to pull up a comment before it gets too far up. Marv White says, and welcome. I don't think we've seen you here before, so if that's true, welcome to the recap. We hope you'll join us again in the future. Clearly, Lewis has been working hard on wrestling. I mean, I probably do sound like I'm hating it like worse than I actually am. What I would say is this: that's not completely accurate, because between round 1 and round 2 is when Bob Perez said, okay, enough with the wrestling. Round 2 is where he tried it again and actually got himself in some trouble. So Lewis, he played with fire a little bit. I like him having any additional weapon, just again, to give his opponents more to think about, to set up the kind of clean shots that really end fights for him. But here, you could argue that he made it closer than he needed to against the guy that he really could have outclassed.
I think I like this. Like, if you're like some karate guy, one of these traditional karates, and you got like a nunchuck or something, and you're like flipping it around, you're like learning how to spin it and shit. and I have a nunchuck. You know, I'm getting pretty good at it. I got nunchucks on my table, and I also have like, a loaded Glock. And someone breaks in my house, like I'm not gonna try my chances with the nunchucks first.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna grab the gun and shoot him. Like they'll go to the nunchucks and go, that shit ain't working. Then go run back and get the Glock.
Yeah. After accidentally clocking yourself in the head with the nunchucks once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think Derrick Lewis might have been like back at the hotel. He jumped on Flow Wrestling, was watching like the Last Chance qualify with Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford, and he just said, he got motivation or something. I don't know. Like maybe he was trying to like do that. Like actually, I don't want to go too far down the wrestling talk. Okay, so he's on a little bit of win streak right now.
Like 2 fights, yeah, isn't it?
A little. How? I think this is the peak right now. Like, I don't think he goes any further.
I agree. And again, I say that as a Houston guy who, I mean, you won't find a bigger Derrick Lewis booster than me, but I'm happy to see him look great. I think he could stick around for a couple more years and keep kind of separating the wheat from the chaff, knocking out a few more of the Rodrigo Nascimentos of the world. But no, his ceiling against the very, very best in the division, for the most part, has still been defined by the ground game. As incredible as it is that he has the Derrick Lewis, jiu-jitsu doesn't work on me, I'll just get up. Against the best of the best, that hasn't really been the case. Like, there have been a couple guys that have outslugged him. Romanov and Tuivasa are the two most obvious examples. But for the most part, the people that have beaten Lewis have beaten him on the ground. And yeah, there's still those guys ahead of him. So it would take some creative matchmaking even to get him into the title picture. But he's a guy that I think this must have been his 12th or 13th straight headliner. It's between him and Korean Zombie for the fighters who headlined the most consecutive events without ever winning a title. And Lewis is going to end up leaving Zombie in the dust since Lewis is still fighting.
Yeah. This I'll say about Derrick Lewis. So Derrick Lewis obviously is such a fan favorite. I mean, you heard the pop he was getting. He had no connection to St. Louis other than eating ribs. But, obviously he is more than a Brazilian, but he's a fan favorite. What I would do with Derrick Lewis moving forward, I would just put him in winnable fights. I think everybody, for the most part, knows that he's not going to ever win a title. It is what it is. Kind of like how at the end of Donald Cerrone's career, like everyone just kind of accepted what he was.
And Derrick himself would be the first one to admit it, I think. Like, I don't think Derrick is at the post fight press conference right now saying, I just need to win 2 more and I get a shot.
Yeah, he doesn't have a plan.
No, yeah. Lewis he's talking about the temperature of his balls and calling people racist for asking him if he ate barbecue today in St. Louis. And
if he says something about a title, like he's saying like tongue in cheek, like he doesn't really think, I'm gonna rise up the rankings and be the best in the world. So just put him in fun fights for the rest of his career. Put him in fights that he can win. Give him some challenges where, it's like 50-50. I'm not saying toss him softballs, but just at least put him in the matches that he has a chance.
Yes.
Don't put him against the guy that's going to take him down mom, or the guy's going to knock him out, going to be too fast, something like that. Just like kind of what I said with Paddy Pimblett. Like Paddy Pimblett is getting to the point. I mean, someone else called him out tonight. Chase Hooper called him out tonight, where he might be at the most call outs in history of people. And I was like, we kind of know where he stand with him.
Comparative, and let's talk about that when we get to the Hooper fight, but comparative to Paddy standing in the division, I would say sure. Because Conor McGregor gets a million call outs, but Paddy, compared to what he's actually accomplished in the division, his name is in more people's mouths. Like, that's got to feel like some kind of victory to him.
So the reason why I mentioned him is I've said for a long time, like, we kind of know who he is. Mm-hmm. Just give him fights in England, in Liverpool, in the UK, and just have him fight guys that he can win, and just do it forever. Yeah, that's why I feel like Derrick Lewis. Just let him fight other heavyweights that he has a chance of winning, main event, co-main event, something like that, and just keep doing it forever. until he finally decides to hang it up. And then you could even say, like, you could have John X and think, oh, crazy, Derrick Lewis hung it up on a 6-fight winning streak, something crazy, I'm gonna go with what Big Marcel just suggested. I'm gonna go Rosenstrike.
Oh, my notes, like normally, you and I will text back and forth, just agreeing on who we're gonna match up. And I have if fighter A wins, if fighter B loses. For Lewis, I just had Rosenstrike. Win or lose tonight, I wanted him to fight Rosenstrike next. This should have been Lewis versus Rosenstrike.
Honestly. Yeah, it makes sense because Rosenstrike is the kind of strike, like both guys are going to swing and throw down. Rosenstrike is the only top 10-ish heavyweight that Lewis actually probably has a ground game advantage on if he actually does want to wrestle. But they both have crushing. I mean, Lewis, even though Rosenstrike is technically the more decorated striker, Lewis has the more power and more likely to let knockout. But they're just someone's going out early.
Yes.
Just make that matchup. And it's funny because two guys who've been in the division for a long time and they have not matched each other. It's just kind of weird too.
I am, yeah, like it's a great matchup. It's just another slot it right in as a fight night headliner, because our friend of the show, Portia Baines, has been riding that horse for a while. I say we put it in Wales, like UFC Cardiff can be Lewis versus Rosenstrike. Yeah.
Derrick Lewis is not going overseas.
Oh, come on. Lewis is a Welsh surname. He's got. I probably don't want to go into how he got the surname Lewis. The more that I think about it. Okay, skip that. All right.
I'm sure Ninja Kitty is. I didn't see this. People be surprised how much. I've said this before. When you do the preview show, people don't realize how much it takes out of you. It really drains you. Like there's a lot of prep beforehand. Then I talk to Ben for 4 hours. It's because people always see the edited version. They don't see the nonstop talking back and forth between. I stay away from. I stay a lot away from Twitter and I try not to like consume too much MMA, and I just get burned out with it. So I didn't see. Like I'm assuming Ninja Kitty is trolling when he's saying that Derrick Lewis has talked about WWE or something like that. His body couldn't hold up.
Yeah.
He's too old. He's got back problems. He couldn't hold up on it. He'd be perfect for him. He's this huge dude with a great personality, but his body couldn't hold up to be on the road as much as those guys are wrestling. Every single. I don't know when they wrestle. Was they wrestle Monday Night Raw every single Monday?
And all those dudes end up with back and like cervical spine problems just from all the bumps they take. For Lewis to start that as he's pushing 40 sounds horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny for someone who hasn't watched wrestling in probably 20 something years. I still watch every episode of Dark Side of the Ring. I watch every single episode.
Oh, wow.
Which is ironic because pretty much every episode is the same exact story. It's like guy wanted to become a wrestler. Then he became a star. Then he started doing cocaine and painkillers, and now he's dead.
There's a certain rhythm and rhyme to it, isn't there?
Every single episode, and I watch every one of them because it's always some 1980s, 1990s person that I've always like followed. I watched, I should say. When they do an episode on Dynamite Kid, and I'm like, yeah, I remember Dynamite Kid when I was a little kid, and it's always the same thing. So they ruin his home. They always have like two, like ex-wife number 1, ex-wife number 2, ex-wife number 3. You know what? Now I'm thinking that'd be perfect for Derrick Lewis. Let's get us a couple ex-wives.
Oh.
Anyways, Nascimento to me, he's just like he can talk about the time he headlined the UFC. To me, he's like like going from main event to like mid card guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was a bubble that was gonna kind of burst the first time he took another uncontroversial loss. Like he'd strung together a little momentum. But yeah, because Lewis, I like the Cerrone comparison because he really is heavyweight Cerrone. He has achieved the kind of stardom that transcends wins and losses. Like again, he came into this fight like 2-5 in his last 7, I think, and the crowd went bananas for him. Like Lewis, people love Lewis regardless of the wins and losses. With most fighters, the fans only start to care more about you incrementally as you keep winning. This sets Nascimento back a long ways.
I put him against Waldo Cortez Acosta, who won tonight.
I'm fine with that. I didn't completely discount the win streak. I was going to give him the loser of Romanov and Almeida that are fighting in a few weeks, but maybe that's too much. Maybe just give him Cortez Acosta.
All right, let's move on. Almost felt like the main event. Joaquin Buckley in the co-main event taking on Nursultan Ruzabayev in a welterweight fight with Ruzabayev going down. Kind of put together sort of short notice. Buckley was kind of pushing to be on this card. Not only was he pushing to be on the card, then he was pushing to be the main event. If they got the right opponent, I actually think it should have been the right call. But Buckley won a unanimous decision. I'll say this. I'm really starting to like Buckley. I like his personality. It wasn't perfect tonight. We'll get to that in the dude seriously, but I like his personality. I saw this video where he ran into a bunch of Uzbekistan fans and he was kind of getting into them, but like in a friendly nature. I like to go into the press conference. Hey Dana, I want this fight, and I go back to like when he went up to Darren Till. And he's like, dude, I need a big fight. Like, fight me. And Darren Till and Shimaev was like, who the hell's that dude? But I'll say this, man, the guy's on a winning streak, and he keeps looking better and better each fight. He looked great tonight.
And something you'll often ask me on these recaps, is this a case of fighter A looking great or fighter B looking terrible? This is mostly fighter A looking great, because my other big takeaway from this is, if Ruzabayev wants to keep fighting at 170, I thought he actually looked pretty damn good. He did a lot of things right, in my mind.
Okay, guys, tell me what he did right.
Okay, one, he stood toe-to-toe with Buckley. Like, here's the thing. Buckley is so terrifying that most fighters don't want that. But the fighters who actually have been willing to exchange with him have usually had success, because he can dish it out a lot better than he can take it. His losses, like Kevin Hall and Chris Curtis, they're guys that were not intimidated. They stood toe-to-toe. Sometimes they took a few shots from him and hit him back, and it didn't go well. Ruzabayev had a lot of that same thing. Like halfway into the first round, I was worried that it was either just going to turn into like this wild game of jacks, or Ruzabayev was going to start getting on his bicycle, but he never did. Item number 2, physically, he looked pretty good at 170. Considering it was a relatively short turnaround, especially to cut this kind of weight, like, he definitely slowed later in the fight, but for as long as he was fresh, he looked good. I thought he looked fast and coordinated at 170. Often when you get a guy that's that tall and that lanky, just they look slow and they end up fighting, and it looks like an NBA brawl. Just you realize how tall, skinny, and kind of specialized NBA fighters are when you see, like, in my day, like, you would see like Patrick Ewing and like Bill Lambert swinging on each other. It's like,
yeah,
neither of you guys has ever actually swung a punch at a bag, ever, have you? You haven't been in a fight since you were 14.
Like Larry Bird and Dr. J went at it.
Yeah, yeah. It was hilarious. Ruzabayev, like, had no answer for the wrestling. And you mentioned on the preview, Buckley's offensive wrestling is a super underrated tool. So yeah, it wasn't his night, but if he wants to stay at 170, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, before I forget, I want to shout out Marv White, who threw us a fight all the tip on a super chat. So we appreciate that, and everybody moving forward. That's really cool with you guys. We don't ask for it, but people want to give to us. That's absolutely fantastic. Sherdog steals all our money anyways, just so you guys know. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, I thought he looked okay. I think you're a little bit better on the performance. I felt like he struggled to get out of gear because I thought Buckley was doing everything right. Buckley's lateral movement is so different than everybody else. He does a lot. He'll throw one and he sidesteps. He does a lot of like jumping off the line and kind of getting you guessing. And I thought the adding in the takedowns was brilliant, and it was freezing and killing the momentum of Ruzabayev. I didn't think Ruzabayev started getting anything going. Boom, right, taken down. There was one point Ruzabayev landed a big shot on Buckley, and Buckley just went boom, just blasted right through his head, drove him right across the entire octagon. And besides obviously getting a dominant position, it just stops him. And now Ruzabayev is going to fight back to his feet, try to get back in a rhythm again, and try to get the timing again. Like everything he kept doing, he just, he dart in, he clinched him, he dart in, take him down, he dart in, land big power shots. And he was always it was like he was on the offense the whole time, and Ruzabayev was just trying to react to him. And that's why I thought it was such a brilliant performance. He showed power, obviously, when he hurt Ruzbayev. His ground and pound at the end was fantastic. I actually thought the fight might get stopped a couple times from his ground and pound. And his takedowns. I mean, I've said this on I think we both said this on the previous show about his wrestling being really underrated. It was on point tonight. This is his takedowns, and obviously it's so easy for me to say. I mean, the guy's so explosive. I mean, like his knockout kick, that catch my leg and hit you with the other one, is one of the greatest, most explosive, one of the most innovative. Check all the boxes when you want a knockout. It's up there. So he fits the mold of someone who can Josh Koscheck through a takedown. When they get to that, what I was called get to the second level. It's where you get to the hips and then you get past like the hip flexors, the muscles, when they can't react anymore. They can't like overpower you. They call it getting to the second level. He's so good. He's what people who want to wrestle don't have. For example, people on this card alone. The one first person I think that jumps out to my head was Billy Goff. He was getting to them, couldn't explode through. JJ Aldridge at times. Who's a little Brazilian girl there? She won tonight over Tisha Torres. Tabitha Ricci. They all kept trying to do what he was doing, but without that next gear to explode. It was that was what really jumped to me. I was like, wow, if he could add in a his top control isn't the best and all that, but if he can add in this explosive takedowns and just having that threat and kind of becoming a poor man's Bilal Muhammad with more power in feet, but like what Bilal Muhammad kind of started doing, where Bilal Muhammad, when he became a good wrestler, just took him to a different level.
Yeah.
He can go far in this division. And I think this is as deep a division there is. So that's like saying much. But I like it.
It's an incredibly deep division. And he just looks like a guy transformed, because coming out of Bellator into the UFC, I mean, he came into Bellator right off that bad loss to Logan Storley, where he got thoroughly out wrestled by pretty much the only guy smaller than himself that he's ever going to see at welterweight. And I figured, okay, whatever his best future is lies at 185 pounds. And that best future is probably a bonus magnet who wins 2, loses 1, wins 2, loses 1. Instead, he's turned into a serious threat. I mean, we're going to be talking about next matchups for him. And I at least am talking about matchups that'll propel him into the top 10 uncontroversially if he wins, which is not something I would have predicted for him in either weight class. Yeah, it's great. He's got a more mature approach. He uses more of his skill set. He's not just waiting for the knockout. Buckley looks fantastic.
Yeah, and just to add something onto what you're saying, you said also, I like to ask the question: was it Buckley looking good, or if it was Ruzbayev looking bad? I think it was Buckley looking good. Just to be clear, like I think this is a lot about Buckley.
Yeah.
You mentioned that going back to some of his early losses, you kind of categorize a guy, you put him in this level. I did the same thing. Like when he knocked out Ipa Kasanga, I thought it was gonna be like, okay, he's always gonna have this crazy moment, and that's gonna be it. That's gonna be his whole career. He keeps winning and putting on performances. We're starting to forget about that knockout.
Yeah, I mean, until it comes up in the next highlight reel. But agreed, it doesn't define him.
It doesn't define him. Yeah, exactly. Which would seem like it was going to be the case with him. Like he'd win some, lose some, win some, lose some, but he always have that one huge highlight. That is not the case. You said you're going to put him in a matchup that might put him in the top 10 next, or kind of put him that way. So who you go with? Yeah. I think I'm going higher than you are.
Okay. I'm either putting him in the winner of Randy Brown versus Eliseo Capoeira, which is happening in a couple weeks, or Sean Brady.
Okay, I'm going B. I had Sean Brady written down.
Okay, that works for me.
I'm doing a fight night main event.
So we both agree that the only big mistake Buckley made all night was trying to call out Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I was leaving that to the dudes here. I do. Let's do one dude seriously. But you know what'd be really funny? Put Buckley, give him a main event against Sean Brady, but then book it in Sean Brady's hometown.
UFC Philly.
Like we wouldn't give you the main event, but we're also going to give him his main event treatment. Yeah, I'll do one dude seriously. You can't get a main event in your own hometown. Got beat out by Rodrigo Nascimento. The UFC said Rodrigo Nascimento is a main event over you do. And you think your next fight is going to be Conor fucking McGregor? Dude, seriously? Like, I understand, like, oh, you're trying to have that Nate Diaz moment, and he kind of dragged it on really, really long. Very similar to Nate would do. But dude, that was bad. And it's got to the point where people have called out Conor so much that just kind of like falls like by the waist. I remember Josh Berkman once called out Conor McGregor. Like I was like interviewing him like way back in the day, like when I was doing interviews. I don't really do interviews anymore. And then I got to like, oh, so who do you want your next opponent to be? And he's like, dude, I want Conor McGregor. It's like, dude, you just fought in the early prelims. What the fuck are you talking about, Conor McGregor? How many phone calls? We do that phone call game. How many phone calls did they got to call? They'd be going through the freaking phone book before they call up freaking Josh Berkman.
Yeah, they would have signed somebody new before
they would have found that guy. There's this no name guy who hasn't fought in like 12 years who subbed Conor, like Conor's like third fight in his career. They'd call that guy up first.
Yeah, they tried that. It was Joseph Duffy, but
no. There's another guy. There's some other guy.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he has like a losing record.
Yeah, Ivan Bushinger or something. Yeah,
he hasn't fought in like it's like some Russian dude. He hasn't fought in like
Ivan Bushinger. Yeah, that's wow.
There you go. All right, let's do with Rizabov stay. I'm okay with him staying at welterweight.
Yeah, and if he stays, and he said he wanted to bounce back and forth. Maybe if he wants to stay at welterweight, I give him the loser of Chaos Williams and Carlston Harris that are fighting.
You're going way down. Oh, you're going way down. The loser, you said, not even the winner.
Yeah, the loser. I mean, he's 0-1 at welterweight. However you want to slice it.
Okay.
Like, I like if I'm feeling charitable, I give him the winner of Chaos versus Harris. You know, it's still a guy outside the top 15.
Okay, I was giving Vicente Luque.
I don't hate that. I mean, that is what Vicente Luque is for at this point. So if you believe in Ruziboyev, then Luque is the appropriate kind of matchup.
Yeah. So I used to do a show back in the day with John Franklin, and he used to have a rule. He said we could never talk longer than the fight actually lasts. So can we sum up Carlos Ulberg versus Alonzo Menafield in 12 seconds?
Yes. Running straight at Carlos Ulberg is a terrible idea. Next.
Yeah, I'm going to go longer than that. So Carlos Ulberg won by first round knockout against Alonzo Menafield. I like being aggressive. I like trying to close the distance. Like that's what you had to do. You had to close the distance. You had to be aggressive. You had to slow down Ulberg, maybe grapple him, maybe wrestle him, grind him in the clinch, do all that. There's a way to do it, and running like with your head down, just throwing wildly like this at a guy who's a sniper, and I think he showed it again. That was terrible. That was a terrible.
Yeah. It was absolutely horrible, and it reminds me of Derek Brunson versus Robert Whittaker, only it's even worse because at least Brunson was way bigger than Whittaker. Like, Menafield just ran heedlessly at a guy that had a ton of reach on him. Like,
Yeah. So it always reminds me of this one guy that I coached in wrestling, and this was almost a complete opposite strategy, but he was going against the number one guy in the state. The guy won the state championship, and this kid was always like realistic where he stood, and his name was Brody, and I'm like, Brody, fuck it, just go for a headlock. And he goes, no, that never works, and and I'm like, dude, yeah, he's better than you. We get it. He's a state champion. You've never played in the States. We get it. But that's your one chance to catch him. Just go for a headlock right away. And he does it. And he gets pinned in like 20 seconds. He shakes hands. He does he backs up a little bit, head feints, a couple things. Then the guy just takes it down I don't know, he did a cradle them or something. He comes back. I'm like, yeah, that was a much better strategy. Like at least mine, you're throwing a fucking Hail Mary. So I guess Alonzo Menafield looked at it like Brody did, and looked at it like I did with Brody and said, yeah, this guy's way better than me. Maybe I could just land a huge shot. And he just went berserker.
SOS Rampages asks the question we should all be asking to this, where he faced a similar problem in Jacoby. A schooled kickboxer who was going to have a ton of reach on him, and Menifield fought a good game plan against him and made a really, really competitive fight out of it. How do you go from that to just, you know what? And if that was the decision, like, I know I'm going to just get pity patted and chopped up from distance if I give Olberg an outside kickboxing match. So he's like, I'm just going to run in and see if I can either, crash into him and take him down, or land, a huge single overhand on the inside. If it had worked, we'd be praising him, and now we're mocking him. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the game plan was. All I know is this didn't work. And again, he was capable of better. He was capable of difference, as the Jacoby fight showed. And now he's got Pat Barry in his corner. You're the gold standard for a short heavyweight kickboxer, managing to succeed against much taller, rangier guys. And that's the best you came up with. It hurts.
That he had Pat Barry in his corner. Pat Barry probably thought to himself, like, shit, Rose would have done better than that. So how does he? I think Olberg's a lot better than Dustin Jacoby, and I think it might be one of those ones where it looks like a terrible strategy now, and it will always be a terrible strategy. But 2 years from now, we'll go, yeah, but what the fuck else get you done? I think 2 years from now, we'll be like, dude, it's Carlos Olberg. Of course, he was going to get starched.
He was the first one to see it.
I think he could be special. So, and I apologize. I think I might have been Mark Mustard. If not, I apologize. Who made this comment this week talking about Olberg and saying how he's been learning on the job. Like, he was so new when he kept pushing the UFC super quick because of, his skill set is there, his striking, his good looks, and then his connection to Izzy and that team. It was a super hot team, and trying to find the next Izzy. He kind of got pushed in the UFC too early, so he kind of, being on the regional scene and racking up like 10 wins or something like that. So he has been learning on the job. People said, like Michael Bisping said, like, this guy could win the title one day. And oh, dude, Ninja Kitty just said Honky Tonk Man lasted longer versus Ultimate Warrior than Alonzo did. That was terrible. Ninja Kitty, I think that was what was that? Survivor Series or SummerSlam?
Wow,
dude. Ninja Kitty, you just won. I'm giving it right now. I'm giving my listener right now. I'm giving it to Ninja Kitty. Put that on the screen. That is an incredible reference, my man. Nice job. You are my listener of the night. But you guys get all the rest of you guys can fight for Ben. SummerSlam. Nice job. SOS Rampage. I knew it was one of those. It was SummerSlam or Survivor Series. That was like the Ultimate Warrior.
In honor of that line, as soon as we're done with the show, I'm going to go behind me and smash one of these guitars.
There you go.
In memory of the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah. You gotta like sneak up on like your steps on there and just crack him right over his back as he walks by. Next time he walks, like sometimes he walks by. Not when you're in this room. When you're in the other one, when you're above the stairs, sometimes he'd come out of his room or something.
Yeah,
he'd come out and just crack him.
Give him the old El Cabal. All right,
but yeah. So the rest of you guys all night will have to compete for Ben's listen tonight. But I'm giving Ninja Kitty for that one. No one's gonna get top that reference. Nice job, my man. I completely lost train of thought. So, Michael Bisping was talking about this guy could be a champion one day, and we don't do that a lot. We don't do the like used to be say, this guy's gonna be a champion. Call it now. Though, just for the record, I did do that one time on Sherdog many years ago, and that was John Jones. But anyways, still getting some credit all these years later for that one. But it's not out of the realm possibility. I think he could be that special. Am I living in the 12-second moment? No. Am I exaggerating? You're
not living in the 12-second moment. Now, on the same night that Rubelas Despain got so badly exposed, we do have to ask what's going to happen when he faces a determined wrestler that has a better entry than just put my head down and run at you. But kind of like 185, 205, it's not like there's a huge cadre of great wrestlers that they have to shield him from.
Did you just say 185 doesn't have a wrestler in it?
It has one, but it's not 170, or 155, where most of the top 10 are pretty good wrestlers.
Okay.
Like 205, Olberg, any division where Alex Pereira made it to a title shot, Olberg could duplicate that.
I totally agree.
And for a next matchup, I'm gonna give him a test, not of a guy that you would think of as a wrestler, but someone that can and will test his ground game if he doesn't get knocked out in 12 seconds.
Okay. Who is it?
It's Anthony Smith.
Dude, we have the same exact one. We have the
Dude,
same.
and here's the thing.
Perfect matchup.
Will it take more or less than 12 seconds for Smith to sign on that dotted line?
Oh, Smith will fight anybody.
Exactly. Like Anthony Smith.
Say what you want, Anthony Smith. Like I saw Anthony Smith. I apologize again. Who was interviewing with, but it was the whole him and Alex Pajeda and grappling match, and people were saying,
"Oh,
Smith,
he's like, he's like, I'll box him, I'll grapple him, I'll play Xbox with him."
Smith.
Yeah, it's Anthony Smith.
You actually challenging Anthony Smith's toughness. Say what you want about Anthony Smith. Skilled, best is the dude's teeth were falling out. He's trying to put him back in. Like, what? Anthony Smith is one of the toughest human beings alive.
Yeah, and Anthony Smith is almost any other fighter who nicknamed himself Lionheart. You'd kind of like snicker a little bit, but nope. Anthony Smith can call himself.
Yeah, it might not be that heart might not be big enough.
Exactly.
He might. What should he want? Like dinosaur heart, or some kind of wildebeest, or some kind of mythical creature, the Kraken heart, or something.
Like you look at Smith, and you're like, I can't believe this is the guy that used to fight at 170 and like went 1-1 with Josh Neer. Well, the difference is that his balls weigh 35 pounds. That's the jump from welterweight to light heavyweight right there.
So what I love about it is not only the talk, because Anthony Smith gets a little buzz back because he just beat Victor Pacino, but also the storyline is, Anthony Smith, Anthony Smith can talk. He's a fantastic analyst. I think he's good when he finally hangs it up. I think I could see him doing doing the not play by play, but doing the color or being the analyst. I think he's great. But the storyline, Anthony Smith coming in that week. Oh, you put me against a new hot thing. Oh, didn't you do that last time? Didn't you learn? There's levels to this. Oh, how many times are you going to keep giving me the young guy? Oh, he's going to make his name off of me. Wait till you see what I got for him.
And he's done that. He's done that to so many guys, even in the so-called he's in decline, where people like you and I are like, is Smith shot? He keeps on sneaking up and just swatting down people that we thought were the future. Yeah.
Book it in Perth. Put it on the main card. Anthony Smith will go to Perth. He'll fight him. He'll fight him in enemy territory. That's what Anthony Smith will do, and that's what I would do. I think Alberg, besides if he ever made a run to the title, I think he could be the way he fights, his looks. I mean, he's got to be popular with the ladies. This guy could be a star. Not just there's champions and then there's stars.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's going to be the level of Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey, and there's a holy grail that's their own category, but he could be the next level down, where Izzy was.
I agree. He could be the kind of person that is a star outside of the combat sports realm, where Brock,
Anthony Pettis was.
Ronda, Pettis. There you go.
Good looking, Wheaties box.
Good looking, and for people that don't really care about combat sports, you can put together a 30-second highlight reel that makes them go, "Oh, this dude is awesome. He does awesome stuff."
Yeah. All right. So I didn't set this right. I should have asked you how you felt about this fight in Spanish, because I had to watch this entire fight on the Spanish broadcast, all 12 seconds, because my ESPN went down and I missed pretty much the entire Carlos de Hegofeta versus Mateusz Rebecki fight. So Ben, I did see the first round. Rebecki looked fantastic. He was teeing off on him. He was landing power shots. He was measuring them. I had a note about how I liked how he was throwing to the middle ground, the space in between them, to forcing Diego Ferreira to kind of raise his hands up. And he was never trying to land that one. He was just using it to distract as he took his ground to land the next one. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be a crushing knockout in the second or third round. This is going to be bad. I have no idea what happened. Next one I see, Rebecki lost. Take it away, man.
Lindo puñetazo del Diego Ferreira, but did not get the knockout. Here's the thing. If you ever question whether I love this sport and the people in it more than I love myself and my opinions, I was up out of my chair cheering at being wrong in this fight. Yeah, Ferreira did more or less the exact same thing he did to Mairbek Taisimov 3 or 4 years ago. He took a ton of punishment early on. He looked like the slower guy. He looked like the weaker guy. He was getting teed on both on the feet and was like clearly Rebeski was the stronger guy and the guy that was going to be in control if they went to the ground. And then about midway through the second round, it just flipped. Ferreira started getting stronger. Rebeski started flagging. And then the entire narrative of the fight flipped. All of a sudden, Ferreira's faster, slicker. He's teeing off on him. If you saw the end of the fight, then you know that Rebeski looked like somebody dropped like a wasp nest on top of his head, and he just got stung up. He looked like the people walking around at the beginning of Green Day's basket case video with like the.
That's what Jeff Colpin said. He looked like he had shingles.
Yeah, yeah, shingles that had like migrated to his eyes, so he was a complete mess. And then I won't say legendary because Ferreira is such an underground unsung fighter, but the trademark slickness on the ground, because Rebeski was still strong, tired as he was in the third round. He still got an easy double leg on Ferreira, but Ferreira just never conceded the position. He did the trying to stuff a cat in the bath thing. He used one butterfly hook and just kicked him right off. Just a fantastic vintage performance from the 39-year-old Diego Ferreira. Huge. I mean, obviously, again, I'm super pleased because Saif Saud could not be at this event. I don't know what his other commitment was. So Ferreira's corner was like two guys that I see every week at the gym, you know, Alex Morono and Jake Heffernan, and then Diego's own striking coach from his gym down in the Rio Grande Valley. So yeah, I'm super thrilled. Ferreira looked great. Yeah. What a fight.
Okay. So it sounded like it was like a highlight of the night.
Well, for me, I don't
One
know.
of the highlights. Like if you watched it,
yeah,
we really don't. Neither one of us really root for guys. I mean, I don't even root for my picks. I root for storylines. I root for exciting moments. I root for just like this, like thing Carlos Tejeda had to be the biggest underdog on the card, and he wins. I love that. But I have no clue how it happened because I didn't get to watch it because
ESPN sucks.
Yeah. So, dude, I've been a fan of MMA since July 15th, 1995. It was the day after UFC 6. I've told the story a million times, so I'm not going to tell it again. But long story short, I watched UFC 6 the day after it happened, and I've been addicted to MMA ever since. But sometimes it gets so hard to be a fan. And I've been doing it for 29 years. Longer than probably 95% of the people in the chat have been alive. It's like between the late nights, the ridiculous, starting the pay-per-views at 10 o'clock instead of what every other sport. I mean, think about the Super Bowl for a second. Sunday Night Football is the most popular, game of the week, and it starts at what, 8:15? The Super Bowl moves up 2 hours. Just to make, and I know some of that has to do with a longer halftime, but to make, so it ends at like 10 o'clock so people can go to bed at an all time. That's when we start. We start our Super Bowl at fucking 10 o'clock. Okay. But I'll deal with that. I will deal with that, Ben, because this is a sport the curse of loving this sport.
It'll break your heart.
Then you have freaking the Apex cards. You're the leader of our sport, and you hold it in a freaking high school gymnasium with 8 people watching. There's more people in my house right now sleeping than are in the Apex. It steals all the excitement, but I'll deal with it. And then you're going to tell me I have to pay for pay-per-views and Fight Pass and all the other shit we got to pay for. And then the thing I pay for every month is not even going to fucking work. It's going to keep freezing over and over and over again to the point where this time it froze, and I had 4 days. So I had 2 laptops and 2 phones trying to pull up the stream, and it wouldn't work. What the fuck? Dude, I could go to HBO and stream the entire season of Game of Thrones, or the entire 8 seasons of Game of Thrones straight, and it won't freaking freeze. But ESPN every freaking week, for the love of God, go to Netflix, please. Go to Hulu. Go to freaking, I don't know. What else is out there? Peacock or some shit. But just get rid of ESPN. It fucking blow. You have your own streaming device in Fight Pass, which is, believe it or not, somehow is better than the worldwide leader in sports.
I mean, you and I have both been fans long enough that we remember when the UFC 33 pay-per-view was going to kill the UFC. It was going to kill when, you know, like it was Tito versus Matyushenko. It cut off, you know, at the end, and everyone was like, oh, the UFC's back on pay-per-view, and they completely shit the bed. This is going to kill the sport. You know what? The last 2 pay-per-views I paid for and haven't been able to watch, period. I would have gladly traded that for being able to watch the whole thing and have it cut off, you know, early.
So I didn't want to watch. I never got to work again. The rest of the night, I never got to work again. I didn't want to listen. I listened to Carlos Ulberg's fight in Spanish, and then I said, "Oh, that's not going to help me with the dude seriously." So I'll just say somehow I was able to watch it a different way.
Yep.
Anyways, Carlos Ferreira, this guy, we would give it up on him. Now he's got back-to-back wins. I can't really like judge. I gotta watch it later, but you make it sound like, I mean, beating Rubeski is a really good win.
And beat him bad. Beat him bad. Like could have been like a twitchier ref could have been stopped.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he did get a stoppage at the end.
That's right. What am I talking about? Yeah. Just killer stuff, man.
What are you gonna do with him next?
With Ferreira?
Yeah.
Any 55er coming off a win. I'll consider it a win if we see him back in the cage this year. I just don't want him to take a whole other year off. Like, you got a little momentum. You're winning fights at 39. That puts you in pretty rare territory, but it's not going to last forever. Like, yeah, if I was supposed to come up with a specific name, I forgot about. Yeah. I'm like half of the UFC fighters when Bisping or Felder comes up to them and they know they're supposed to come up with a name and they didn't. Like
they should just the in octagon interviews. They shouldn't ask the question. They should just grab the mic and say, "What a fantastic win! Just tell us what you're thinking," and just let them freaking. Or you got 2 minutes. Go ahead and say whatever you want. The Michael Baseman today was asking Ulberg, so, I mean, how far do you think your career is going to go? Oh, what did you guys say? What did you say? Well, Mike, I think I'm going to win my next fight. After that, I'm probably going to lose, going a little bit of a losing streak. Then I might win a couple, might be close to getting cut. Then I'm probably win one, lose one. Every time you stop, people believe in me that I'm going to lose again. Then I'm going to go a little bit of streak to get a little excitement. So I get close to the top 10. That'll probably be my peak. And then I'll probably lose a bunch, hang on too long, and end up in bare knuckle boxing. Like, they're going to say that? But they asked him that question, or they won a close decision. Do you think you did enough to win? Absolutely not. I think I lost. What the hell's the matter with you guys? But hey, thanks, guys.
I mean, there's always that one guy in 50 who'll answer that question honestly, but don't bother asking it.
I think Cub Swanson said it, though. He said it. Cub Swanson said his opponent beat him once. I can't remember who it was. Remember that one?
Yeah, well, it's always like a veteran who's really, really late in their career and doesn't give a fuck anymore.
Doesn't either win.
Always, yeah.
It doesn't either. It doesn't really change. I'm gonna give, even though I just gave Jerkal Close RDA a week ago. This is the kind of level of, I think, Jerkal Close on the win streak he's on. Him versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. I put him like a co-main event of a fight night.
Sure.
Yeah. It was Hakeem Dawodu. Nice job, Bob Chimson. All right, let's move on. Before that, Alex Caceres and Sean Winston fought, with Sean Winston winning the decision. Do you agree with that?
No, I mean, I picked Woodson, so I'll take it because I don't need any more L's tonight. But no, I actually gave it to Caceres. I thought he fought a smart fight. And I mean, Woodson fought a pretty good fight as well, but just Woodson slowed down late. Caceres made adjustments from round to round. Yeah, I thought it was a good competitive fight, but I did give Caceres rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah, I did too. I give him 2 and 3, and I looked at MMA decisions. It's 11-3 for Caceres. You know, I'm not gonna say it was a robbery. It was the rounds were really close. It kind of comes down to the second round. I thought Caceres clearly won round 3. Woodson clearly win round 1. It kind of comes down to round 2. Both had the most. Woodson kind of early, Caceres kind of late. I gave it to Caceres. I like how I agree with your adjustments. He just started like making chaos. Like someone was just spinning attacks, forcing Woodson kind of back it up, bring his hands up, and that helped him close the distance. And then he was landing inside shots.
Yeah.
Woodson bothers me. Like he has, and everyone talks about the potential he has, and he has it because of the size, the length, his crisp boxer. He lets his hands go. The issue is, and I don't know, I kind of have a couple ideas. Some of it is he's got that Jorge Masvidal, I'm not getting hurt, so I'm not losing mentality.
Yeah.
Not realizing, like he seemed way more confident in like he had the decision than everybody else was.
Which we hope he doesn't take it to heart, because this took 2 local Midwestern judges that really never judge big events outside of like Missouri and Kansas to get him this win. So if he fights like this in the future and assumes that he has those decisions in the bag, he's going to turn into a Masvidal that has a ton of split decision losses and is kind of throwing his hands up like a Diaz brother and being like, nobody's ever beat me.
Yeah, and it just happened. He won a split decision in his last fight over Charles Jourdain in a fight that he was clearly way better than early, and kind of cruised and let Jourdain battle himself back in, keep the rounds close. So that's one thing. The other thing is he kind of takes moments off and he takes rounds off, and I'm kind of figuring out why that is. I think some of it might be just he boxed so much, and that's such a big thing in boxing because they fight 10 rounds or 12 rounds or something like that. So they take rounds off. And he kind of does that. He'll take moments off. Like there was like the whole second half of the second round, he just was not matching the output. But another thing I wonder is he's so big that he might have to do it to conserve some energy, which makes you wonder if he'd still be super big at 155 if he went up to 155. And
he's 6'2". That's Randy Brown's height. He'd be fine at 170. Now, once you get up there, he does have like kind of just a narrow torso and skinny legs, but he could fill out to 155, no problem at all, and would I mean, he'd still be taller than just about everybody he fought. His slickness and speed, because it's always surprising to me how fast his hands are, would be even better at 155. I agree. Maybe his best future lies at 155.
And Ben would know as someone who's got a narrow torso and skinny legs too. So you definitely would know. Yeah, I really do think his offensive tools are elite.
Yes.
It's just I think it's here. I really think it's here. I think he's like he almost fights down to his competition. Like this fight, again, I thought he lost. And I thought this was tailor-made the perfect matchup for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because he was talking a big game afterwards on the mic, and I get it. He's in his hometown. He's excited. I'm not dissing that, but I don't think it was a good decision. Like I felt like his stock went down. Oh, but yeah, Bob Shinson mentioned he beat up Dennis Bazooka, so that tells you something. Speaking of stock going down, Robles Despain took on Waldo Cortez Acosta, with Waldo Cortez Acosta winning a unanimous decision. Oh, I mean, I didn't want to ask you, did one guy look good, one guy look bad? I mean, this was a horrendous showing by Despain. I don't do this often when I say like, oh, hype train off the rail, but this thing is usually I'm like, no, stay on a little bit. Get these moments. This is off the tracks, going off a cliff. It's already halfway down the cliff. You better pull the parachute or something. Like he looked terrible.
To answer Alan McDonald, was there any worse way for Despain to lose? No, there wasn't. Him getting sparked in 30 seconds by Cortez Acosta, we could brush off. Well, okay, these things happen in MMA sometimes. It's heavyweight. Even Cortez Acosta, who doesn't seem to have much pop, he's still a 6'5", 265-pound guy. No, that would have been much more excusable. The fight was garbage, and I don't particularly feel better about Waldo Cortez Acosta, except in the one thing where if you told me in advance that, okay, no, Cortez Acosta, he's not going to live and die by the jab. He actually is going to try early, often, and relentlessly to bring this fight to the ground. I'm not making excuses. I still would have picked Despain, but I wouldn't have been as comfortable with it. As it is, yeah, Despain was exposed. There are multiple problems. One, I just asked in pure exasperation, I think early in the third round, has Despain never even drilled these positions? Like I've never seen a fighter at the UFC level, even at heavyweight, especially like even with fewer than 6 career fights, even at heavyweight, look so lost. Like he just literally did not know what to do to fight off these takedowns or get back up. And it's always going to be an uphill battle when you are 6'7" and your pants have like a 44-inch inseam. The takedown's always going to be there for your opponents, but just did not do the proper basic first week of wrestling practice steps to defend. And once he was on the ground, he was trying shit that doesn't have names. And it's not that it doesn't have names because you're Ryan Hall and you're some kind of weird wizard on the ground. It doesn't have names because it doesn't fucking work. It was so bad. And on top of that, after Cortez Acosta got the first takedown, for the rest of the fight, Despain's offense pretty much dried up. It went like it was 80% low kicks from there on out because he was like, I can throw this quick little low kick out there and like slap him on the thighs, and he's probably not just gonna, run me to the ground.
Yeah. So I was at a softball. Actually, I was at yesterday. I was at softball. My daughter had another softball tournament today. But shout out to my niece who graduated from Rhode Island College today. That's where I was at early morning. But my oldest daughter, she's like, I don't know, she got a little sickness going on. We're hoping it's okay because we're in the finals of the tournament tomorrow. But she came into my room, like I always say, I sit in my bed and I watch on the laptop, and she like came in my room and like cuddled next to me, and that's when you know she's sick because that's not her. My middle child, absolutely not my oldest, but she did that, and we actually watched this fight, and we were like, I was talking to her, and there was a moment when he was against the cage, and he actually had an underhook in, like defending, and he moved his hand out, and I'm like, what is he doing? That's your defense. Like he didn't even understand that. Like he was in a good position and took it out. And I'm explaining that to her. I'm like, oh my God, like my 14-year-old daughter has more knowledge now of grappling than he does. And I mean, it was like you mentioned, there was no urgency on the ground. No. And then even on the third period, sorry, I was watching hockey yesterday, and I was watching a lot of wrestling. In the third round, he's down 2 rounds to nothing, needs a knockout, and he's throwing like, he's not even like turning the hips over hard. He's just tossing out these calf kicks. He's like, there was one time he threw like a teep kick or a front kick right to the face, like that was nice, but he wasn't stepping in the pocket to throw some big shot. He wasn't doing anything. And this is a guy who's all he does is throw whipping hard shots.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, what do you got to do? You're not even going for the win. And then Acosta just clinches him, easily takes him down. And it was like, yeah, I'm not going to completely give up on the guy because we've seen this before, but we didn't know about his ground game. Like that was a big mystery. Oh, we know it. It is a F.
It's worse than I suspected, because if you'd asked me before this weekend, how's Despain's career trajectory going to look in the UFC? I mean, I said on the preview, I was picking him to knock Cortez Acosta out early, but I'm not bought into the hype. But I figured he'd win this one. They put him against like a better kickboxer. I think the name I threw was Marcos Rogerio de Lima, where I'm like, he's not going to knock a dude like that out in a minute. Like de Lima's just too experienced. He's got too many weapons. And then he'd run into a Alexander Romanov or Marcin Tybura type, and they'd, turn him into avocado toast, and we'd know, okay, this is where the fun ends. That part came quicker than I would have expected, and it came from a guy that shouldn't be able to do that to him. So I'm not completely off the train either. I'm more concerned with kind of how he reacted once it was not going his way. Just the fact that after the first takedown, like he basically stopped doing anything that would have let him pull off the win. I would have been more impressed if he got even more aggressive on the feet after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just was like, you know what? I have basically 10 seconds in each of these rounds to blow this dude's brains out. I'm going to try a flying knee. I'm going to try, like a side kick to the face. And if it doesn't work, well, then I lost, but I'm losing anyway. Instead, he just kind of went into his shell, looked like, and I know I've said this many times, when I say a fighter gave up, it usually to me doesn't mean they're scared. It just means they ran out of ideas. And he ran out of ideas the first time he got taken down. Like he gave up any strategy that would have won him the fight. Very disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I thought his performance was horrendous. I said, like, you give him an F. He's 35. Like, he doesn't have the time to learn the ground. Like, this is like you got an F in English class, and there's like, a month left in school. You got to go after the teacher and be like, hey, can I get extra credit? Even though you haven't been attention all year. Can I do some extra work? And then you start cheating off the kid next year and everything. He's got to pull out all the stops because he's in some big, big trouble. And I think at his age and all this, I think he's just going to learn takedown defense. I think his career is going to be come out, throw everything, go straight Alonzo Menafield out there, run across the end, try to hit throw as many punches as you possibly can before they grab your legs. And maybe you knock them out. But once they grab your leg, you're going down. Let me ask you this question. He weighs what, 265? Like right at the limit.
Yeah, right on there.
Could Bo Nickal beat him right now? Bo Nickal weighs 80 pounds less than him.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure. Like, I think so. So,
answer to J-Sex. How many more fights do you give him before he's cut? If he loses all of them, I think he gets 2 more. But if the UFC is smart, they will give him an opponent that's like they'll go back to like who was the dude they signed to get Greg Hardy a win? They'll give that guy a call, assuming his phone hasn't been cut.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Find absolute tomato cans. Have a fight absolute nobodies. Like, shit. Have him fight friggin' who's the guy you just knocked out? Have him fight him again.
Have him fight Josh Parisian again.
Yeah. But nobody with a ground game. Nobody at all. Speaking of ground games, how about friggin' Chase Hooper's ground game as he submits Vladislav Borsov? I butchered that name. I apologize. How do you say the name?
Vyacheslav Borsov. And dude, you did fine. Like you were gentler with his name than Hooper was with his body.
God.
On a card where I went was at 4-8. This might have been the fight I was most wrong about.
And no, you almost took him.
Well, I almost took him, but again, I don't really care about the numbers. I care about seeing the fight right. And in my mind, this was kind of a coin flip fight. Yeah, if Hooper can get Borsov down, especially early when he's unhurt and they're still pretty dry, he could run over Borsov. If he can't, I think Borsov's probably going to tee off on him. He'll catch him coming in and knock him out. But it felt like almost a coin flip. Instead, Hooper was fine on the feet, and he looked more purposeful and competent as an offensive wrestler than he really ever has in his UFC run. Like,
Borsov is a horrendous wrestler. I mean, we talk about like the takedowns, like Mike Davis was getting on him, and a couple other guys were just like tournaments takedown on me. I think what's going to happen with Hooper. So I'm believing in him. Like, he's starting to really. He's only 24 years old. It's one of those things we always say, like, we kind of give up on him a little too soon. You're like, oh wait, he's only 24 years old now, and all the experience he has, and he's got a good UFC record. So I think he's a better fighter than I originally thought. But I think what's going to happen is people might exaggerate his stand up because he wasn't like early. He was like overthrowing his shots, and he wasn't like. I mean, it was very, very brief, but like Borsov was landing some decent shots on him, and he wasn't reacting right. I think the punch that he dropped Borsov, it was one of those like he thought he was going in for an entry and he kind of came up and hit him with a shot. It will, to me, it's a little Kevin Randall, Mirko Cro Cop, where it's like just like the perfect shot at the perfect time. The guy was dropping his hands. I don't like. I like that he went right back to the wrestling. Like, he didn't come out in the second and didn't come out like trying to throw again. He's like, nope. Like, yeah, I dropped him, but did you see what I did the other 4 minutes on the ground? And he like came right out, shot in on him right away. I like that.
Yeah.
Like, I hope he doesn't over exaggerate his hands. I think a lot of people will. And yeah, can his striking develop? Of course he can. He's 24 years old.
Yeah.
But his bread and butter is still that ground game. And it is. I mean, what he did tonight. Oh, well, we're kind of bearing lead. Tap out and out. What do you think?
I don't think he tapped.
I think it was a right call by the ref. I don't think he tapped either. Because of how he reacted right afterwards. Like he was going. I think it's one of those like he was putting his hand back and he was kind of like he was trying to block like a hip over and then he just kind of put his hand down. It just happened to look like a tap. But it was the absolute right move. You're the referee. You have to stop it there. And you're in a Darce choke, and your hand kind of made a motion like a tap. It could have been a little bit of Matt Lindland situation too. Could have been a little like it just why it was too much in the open to kind of do that. The old Brazilian tap.
It could have been like it's tough, man, because I don't think he meant to tap, and ultimately you can't judge these things purely based on the outcomes because in reality, what did that do? It probably just prevented him from going to sleep 10 seconds later. But
could have, yeah.
Like I for Hooper's sake, I wish this had been left with no possible complaint because I don't want this to take away from the best performance of Hooper's career so far.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take too much away because of everything else that happened in that fight. If this was one of these, like it was early in the first round and it was the first takedown, I think that would take a little bit off. But I mean, he got him down again. He dominated for like he dominated for like 10 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy had a humongous egg on his head, so everything was going his way. Let me ask you this. So he has 3 losses in the UFC. Steven Peterson, Steve Garcia, and Alex Caceres. He easily wins 2 out of those 3 right now, right?
I agree. I think so. And that's assuming we get good Caceres.
Yeah.
Silly Caceres, there's a possibility he sweeps him. Yeah.
Yeah. Hooper versus Caceres to me is like a toss-up. Mm-hmm. And that was not a toss-up years, whenever they fought a while ago. And the other 2, I think he wins.
Agreed.
That's my point. Like, he continues to improve. Like, I'm not saying he's a top 15 guy or anything like that, but he's top 40.
He's 24 years old. He's got time to work on it. Again, this is putting the cart way before the horse. But
sure.
If you want to talk about someone who came to the UFC when he was 19 years old and was written off numerous times, the example is always going to be Charles Oliveira. Even at age 24, we thought of Oliveira as, okay, he gets some spectacular subs, but then he also just wilts and disappears in the middle of fights for no apparent reason, and he can't make weight. Hooper's got lots of time to work.
Yeah. Max Holloway was losing to Dennis Bermudez when he was 20 years old.
Yeah.
21 years old, yeah.
Like, Hooper's got 2 to 4 years before he probably even really reaches his maximum, like, power on the feet and muscular strength.
Yeah.
He could turn from a passable wrestler into a good wrestler between now and then.
Yeah. You always think of like people's narrative changing. You always think of Charles Oliveira. And like one of the things we always talk about is that he was considered a guy that could fold under pressure when things got hot, which is so crazy to think. But it was true at that time.
Yeah.
The other guy I always bring up is Robbie Lawler. Yeah. Robbie Lawler came to the UFC really young, came out great. He lost that one fight to Pete Spratt. The whole narrative turned into he's a front runner. When things went hard, he bailed. He doesn't have the fighting spirit. I remember the Sherdog form. He doesn't have the fighting spirit.
He didn't have the fighting spirit.
Robbie fucking Lawler.
And Nick Diaz knocked him out with a jab, so he's chinny. Diaz. Like he's already shot at age 24.
He got knocked by the jiu-jitsu guy, Nick Diaz, who had that's what he was considered at that time. Yeah. It's just funny how people change. It's crazy. One thing that does not change is Terrence McKinney will not go to a decision as he took on Esteban Ribovitz, and Esteban Ribovitz knocked him out with a perfectly placed high kick in the first round. An absolutely incredible. It won't be knockout of the year because of who it is and it's a prelim fight. If you take these 2 guys, take the same exact movement, but make it 2 guys in a pay-per-view main event. So they're welterweights? No. What are they?
They're lightweights.
Sorry, lightweights. Yeah. Okay. Take this out. Make McKinney. You know what? Make McKinney Islam Makhachev. We'll make it even more.
Yeah.
Make Rivas Dustin Poirier, just the same exact movement,
Knockout of the year. Knockout of the year.
It was that clean. It was that beautiful. The way he fell, Terrence McKinney fell. He was against the fence, like he looked like a drunk dude mumbling to himself outside of freaking Walgreens on Broad Street in Pawtucket.
It's what God, who is the person who said this to me? I want to give proper credit. I can't remember, but it's someone. Okay, yeah, I'll skip it. Like, incredible knockout. McKinney was deaded. Like his soul only came back into his body in stages. That was, I mean, and right now we're kind of like just laughing at how crazy it looked and kind of buzzing over what a moment it was. But McKinney's been knocked out before, and he's been knocked out good. I wonder if this is one we'll look back as one that kind of like it was a turning point for McKinney.
Yeah. Like, 30C West. Like, nice reference, buddy. That's a good reference.
If McKinney goes 1-4 in his next 5 fights and he just can't take a clean shot anymore, are you that shocked?
No.
Like, if this is the one that broke him at age 29?
What I also love about this fight is, obviously we've it's always tough. Like, you have this beautiful, oh my God, you get so excited, but then on the flip side, you're like, there is sometimes there's certain knockouts you get a little concerned, and that kind of was the case with McKinney. But what surprised me is if you told me someone wins by spectacular first round knockout of the year, I would have guessed it was McKinney. Like, that's his whole thing. Like, McKinney's whole thing, come out like a bat out of hell, throw hard, land big shots. I love that it was reversed. Nothing against McKinney, but I love these twists and turns that happen in MMA.
Absolutely.
Before that, Tecia Torres took on Tabitha Ricci. Tabitha Ricci winning on paper the closest fight, winning by split decision. Just another really, really close fight. I looked at MMA decisions. MMA decision was 6 for the winner, Ricci, and 7 for Tecia Torres. Oh, Tecia Pennington. I'm sorry for calling Tecia Torres. Tecia Pennington. How did you score
it? I scored it for Pennington. I gave her 2 rounds to 1. And Sherdog's scores were split on it as well. I think it came down to whom you gave the third round to. Like, that felt like the swing round to me. These women they were so obviously exact physical equals. They ended up in so many kind of stalemate positions once they were clinching and working, to wrestle with each other. It was kind of interesting that way.
I think both fighters had moments. I think Tecia Torres looked a lot better than I expected her. To me, she showed that she's still like Tecia. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say she's still Tecia Torres, because she's not. She's Tecia Pennington, but I meant that level of fighter that she was when she left. Like, I wasn't sure about it because you're out for such a long time. I think she showed that she's still that level. I thought she showed some really good things. I thought Ricci had some really good things. I feel like this is a fight that you watch a bunch of times. This is not this might be like you said, you go to the you've gone to the referees classes, and to me this would be one of the ones if you're to show how to judge. I should have said judging classes taught by the referees, because I feel like if I watched this fight, I'd change my score a bunch of times, because the number one criteria is damage. But was Torres landing damage? Like, she was landing volume, but she wasn't hurting her. She never hurt Ricci. So there's what's more important, like the control of Ricci, the volume of Torres? Like, to me, it was, nobody was putting the other one in trouble.
Which, those are the hardest fights to score.
Yeah. So I also gave it to Pennington, but like I said, I could flip flop. It was really, really close. One thing I was surprised, she adjusted later on, but one thing that Ricci was doing early, she kept trying to get to that Muay Thai plum clinch, and Torres was just like, every time she grabbed on, she's like, "Oh, you got to grab him. I'm going to punch," and she just punched like 5 times, and she won the first round with that move, because like for about 3 minutes it was very close and competitive, and it was like a toss up round, and then Ricci kept doing that and just was gave the first round away.
And you know what? It's kind of the same thing that Pennington did to Angela Hill a couple of years ago. And it's easy to say this isn't working, change it, but it's one of the reasons I will keep saying there's a difference between what a fighter knows how to do and what their instincts make them want to do when the adrenaline's flowing and people are punching you in the face. Like I can't criticize too hard how they react in the moment. Like think of Angela Hill's background in martial arts and think just telling her, okay, tonight don't clinch. That would be a really, really hard adjustment to make. That's what all of her training and all of her instincts, all of her muscle memory want to do. So yeah, like Pennington made an adjustment that Ricci didn't, and that contributed to her, at least in my mind, like she should have won the fight.
I remember I was training it, and this is a long time ago. So I remember training at Jorge Rivera's gym. I cross-trained with him a lot. I actually helped him with wrestling a lot. And I was doing like sparring. It was sparring with takedowns. Like it was like kind of like MMA sparring. And I was sparring a guy, and I kept shooting and taking him down because that's what I do. I was a very good wrestler, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and then like Jorge Rivera had to say to me like, "All right, hey, no more takedowns," because he was like, "All right, well, we want you to mix in takedowns here and there, but I just turned it into a wrestling class. Like I throw 1-2 punch, take him down."
Well, I mean, if you can, I understand. He wants to move ahead with like whatever they're focusing on that day, but that's a lesson in itself, isn't it, guys? Like,
yeah, like, yeah. I teach that guy a sprawl and a cross face and a whizzer, but Richie's not like she's she won a bunch of fights. I mean, she this is a rebound fight. She's coming off a loss, but overall she's won a lot of fights in a row, so she's still like right down the brink of the top 10. I'm going to let her be a test for a different fighter, though. I'm going to give her Asmin Lucindo. Lucindo's coming off that huge, incredible performance against Karolina Kovacevic. I think she deserves another step up. I think Tabitha Ricci's that person.
I like that. That's another one where we will definitely pull out the old could Portia Baines block these women's jump shop segment, because Lucindo is another like little compact one. I like that because I still don't know how good Tabitha Ricci is. I think is the best way to put it. Like,
yeah, I agree.
She's
good, but her problem is she wants to grapple, but she's not explosive wrestler. She's not what Joaquin Buckley is. No. She gets on the hit. She doesn't explode through. She doesn't chain takedowns together. She kind of has her double underhook, try to get a trip, and if that doesn't work, she doesn't have a lot to what to go to next. She at one point she had like this like, I don't really call it, they like hook underneath their arm and they like lock it up, and they like, it's like a crappy like police officer use of force training where they do a stupid lock and they pull it down. Instructor like tries to tell you, and I look at him and I'm like, you fucking kidding me, dude? I'll freaking fire image on your head right now. if you did that to me. But I think that, and obviously she's always going to be undersized, not in this case tonight, but generally speaking. The big question is, did you see Dev wants a pita of Porta Baines and basketball. Dev has a wicked. I heard he's got a good sky hook.
I refuse to believe that Dev has a good sky hook. Dev's social media handle is literally Dev Goes Fishing. All I know about Dev is he likes combat sports. He likes to go fishing, and he must be. And he's one of those like guns and weed libertarians that both like liberals and conservatives are a little suspicious of. Yeah, like, and I love Dev. I say it all with love, but that dude doesn't have a jump shot. Portia's swatting his shit all day.
Before that, probably the fight of the night. Billy Goff took on Trey Waters. Trey Waters winning by unanimous decision. This fight was nuts. This was a Billy Goff fight all the way.
It was a Billy Goff fight, but Waters did his job to help contribute to it. I forget who it was in the Sherdog Slack that said it. It may have been Dev, but said every time Waters gets hits clean, he looks like he took a whippet. Like, just like he's like his eyes go. Ooh. Yeah. I don't know if he's having a good time or a bad time, but he is altered right now every time someone hits him in the face.
Yeah. So Waters, he rolls with punches, which to me is so extremely dangerous, and it's like He drops his hands, roll punches. I'm like, dude, why do you keep doing that? And then Billy Goff, if Goff kept it a brawl, I think he won. He was winning like the exchanges in the brawls, and then he kept shooting for takedowns in the second round and ducking his head, and he wasn't getting it, and he was tiring himself out with his wrestling, trying to get the fight to the ground. I'm like, why are you trying to get to the ground? You're doing very well at a brawl. He was hating the volume of Billy Goff. And like he was starting to fold him a little bit, and Billy Goff went away from it and went right back to wrestling again. His takedown attempts was killing his own momentum. You know, I've talked about like takedown attempts at killing your opponent's momentum.
Yeah,
he was doing it to himself. But
Derrick Lewis was in the green room going, "Oh, I like that."
Yeah. MMA decisions had it 9-6 for Trey Waters. A lot of people. I saw this fight. A lot of people debating. I tweeted out. I put like 30-27 Trey Waters. That's how I scored it. And a lot of people were like, oh my god, that fight was so close. I'm like, yeah, I agree. 30-27 Waters. And like, what are you talking about? It was so close. Like, yeah,
each individual round was close.
Yeah, they were both extremely close. Like, yeah. I'm still amazed at the amount of people who don't know that a close fight could be 30-27. A close fight could be 50-45.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun on Twitter. There's a lot of good tweets that people saying like it's even better when someone's like, oh, that should at least been a split. And one guy's like, you psychopath? You score for 3 people?
Yeah, like well, yeah, saying it should have been a split. Like, do you get to pick which judge is the asshole? Like,
yeah. So I have watched God knows how many fights with my good buddy Chica Muhammad Dave Stewart. Great guy. Since we've been doing the recap show, I've really got away from it because we talk too much and I can't watch as close as I need to. So I've really been kind of just watching alone. But for a long time, I'd watch it. And like he was that king of that. Like, oh, it should be a split. And he'd be like, split decision. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm scoring for one person kind of thing. And then it hit me and I go, this dude don't know what a split decision is. Because he'd be like, oh, I should at least been a split. And I realized he's at a split decision was like, you win 2 rounds and lose 1. That's a split. And I'm like,
no, that's not a split.
Oh my God, this guy doesn't know what a split decision is. I feel bad if he's listening. I'm dogging my boy. He was like an MMA fan for like 15 years, didn't know what a split decision was.
I've talked to a couple fighters that it's obvious that
I don't think
that's what they think.
I don't think Dominic Cruz knows how the fights are scored. Anyways, let's move on. Another close decision. So this was 3 fights in a row that was close decision that I was on the losing side of all 3 of them. That could have went the other way. Jake Hadley took on Charles Johnson with Charles Johnson winning a decision. I went to MMA decisions. It was 12-1 for Charles Johnson. You know who the only person who scored it on MMA decisions for Hadley?
Who?
This guy right here. This guy. I had it for Hadley. I gave Hadley the first and third, but I'm okay with like the third round was so close. I'm okay with people giving it to Johnson. It was a toss up. You know, like I'm okay with who gave it to Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, the third round was competitive. I thought the first and second were pretty straightforward. This is another one I was wrong about. I mean, you and I were just dismal on the prelims. I mean, that's the real problem is that we went 1-5 on the 6-fight prelims. And some of them were kind of coin flippy things and others that I just read them wrong. But this is one where I'm mostly happy that Johnson fought kind of this complete a fight. Johnson,
he's sneaky, man. He is
sneaky. Somebody on the preview in the comment section on the preview said that, you know, he's got big upside or he's better than his record. And I said, you know, he's definitely capable of more than he's shown. I just didn't think this would be the fight where he'd show it. He looked good. He's physically, he's always going to be a matchup problem. Like, he's one of those guys that I think winning for him is going to involve knowing when to strike and when to wrestle, because he's better at one or the other than almost everybody he fights. So he becomes one of those fighters where, to use the horrible fighter cliche, if he can impose his will, impose his game plan, like fight the fight that suits him best, on talent, he might be a top 10 flyweight right now. just if he fights his best fight.
Yeah. So again, I scored it for Hadley, but like I said, I'm okay with Johnson. To me, it was one of those when the fight ended. I said I scored for Hadley, but Johnson can win. And why I'm confident that is he had one round in the bag. He had the second round. So now he only needed the first or the third.
Mm-hmm.
And they both were kind of close rounds. So I'm like,
yeah,
all right, you get 50-50 shot. You got 50-50 shot twice. It's like if me and you were playing heads or tails, I get heads, you get tails. But I only have to win one of the coin tosses. You gotta have to have hit tails 2 in a row. I like my chances. Yeah.
Sure.
So in this case, it was the striking for Johnson that was better. And the big thing was him moving forward. When he was forced on his back early on in the fight, forced on his back foot, he was struggling. Like Hadley was absolutely correct. He said he's not good on his back foot. Yeah, he's not. But he knows that too, and he makes adjustments. Hadley, and this goes back to what we mentioned about Buckley. I think Hadley is a perfect example. And this is just my old wrestling. I'm amazed at how many people close the distance, and I've said this for God knows a decade. The amount of people when they look for a takedown, they like reach around the waist and they go right up to the upper body. I'm like, they do know when you attack for a takedown, your hand should be somewhere between the knees and like right underneath their butt.
Yep.
And the amount of people that reach around like the waist and then come up. First of all, you're kind of going Greco-Roman. But if you had any Greco-Roman guy has the hands locked and said, "Hey, yeah, you got to take the guy with the Greco-Roman. Oh, I'm gonna let you use your legs too." They'd be like, "Oh, fantastic!" Like they're not using the legs. They're like, "Oh, hey, you can drop down to the leg." And they're like, "Oh, that'd be so much easier." It amazes me how many people do this and they limit themselves.
It is hard to stop a double leg takedown if somebody has their hands locked around kind of your mid thigh. It is super hard to defend. Really, the only defense for that kind of double leg is sprawling before they get their hands locked behind your thighs. If they're there, they're 80% of the way to taking you down already. Like,
oh yeah, and if it's a high crotch, they don't even have their hands locked. You can't even sprawl. Yeah. Now you got to scramble. You got to whizzer. You got to. Like, it's even harder. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hadley, man, he's lost 2 in a row now. Like this is a guy that had a lot of hype, and man, he's fighting second on the card and going and get, he's like seemed like UFC's giving up on that guy. He's going into the other guy's hometown. Not a good look for him, but yeah, Johnson's gonna be a guy. He's going to be booked against someone on paper. It's going to be better than him. He's going to be a slight underdog, and it's always going to be hard to pick against him.
Yeah, and Hadley, he's still just 27 years old.
Yeah,
all of his losses have been competitive to some degree. Nobody has wiped him, and they've all been against good fighters. Like
he could have won this
Shillan Nascimento, Cody Durden, now Charles Johnson. None of them are bad fighters. So I've not jumped off the Hadley train. He just needs to kind of take a breath, regroup. I don't know if he needs to find a new gym, just find a new approach, take a few months off. Just one of those fights.
And the open fight of the night was Veronica Hardy getting a unanimous decision over JJ Aldridge. I will say this. Like everything I just said about Hadley with his injuries, same thing with Aldridge. She did the same exact thing. Hardy, one thing I was really enjoying from Hardy, and I think this is why she won. It was a really close fight. It was 13-1 MMA decision. I was not the one in that one. I was on the Hardy one, but I think it's one of those ones where it's closer. Like 14 people all say one person won, but it was close. Hardy was winning the X's. Like Aldridge would land a shot, she'd throw like a single strike and land it, and then she'd kind of like admire her work for a second and step as she was exiting. Hardy would always respond and catch her when she was exiting. I'm like, man, how is she not realizing that? She's just every single time the exchange is over, Hardy lands. So I was really impressed with that. I was listening to Dan Hardy this week, and that guy has such a good mind for MMA.
Yes.
I think like she's 3-0 since returning to UFC, and I think Dan Hardy is a huge reason for that.
I agree.
Anything else you want to say about this fight?
No, I don't think so. Like
I'll say this. Hardy won, and I know some people get mad when I say this, but it's true. Hardy won the 10-9 system. Aldridge, because most of the damage was that third round, Aldridge would have won the Pride rules.
Oh, yeah. Aldridge, Pride rules gets the Dan Henderson decision all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you have it, guys. We have covered all 12 fights in depth. Let's get some fun stuff. Ben, it's going to surprise you. Someone earlier asked, is Terrence McKinney on your cut list?
Nobody's on my cut list, in fact.
I have nobody either. Why are you keeping Terrence? Terrence, he's only lost one fight in a row. He won his last 2 fights before that. And he's fun as hell.
He's not wasting a lot of your time. He's the perfect guy to have on a card where you're worried that you're going to run behind because there's a lot of decisions and people aren't going to get post-fight interviews. Get him in there. All of his fights are over in the first round. They're all a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like, why would I cut Terrence McKinney?
Yeah. I can see how Alonzo Manifield said it to McKinney, like, yeah, dude, that fight was really quick. Saving some time on the broadcast. I got early night. And he's like, hey, McKinney, hold my beer. Makes it even quicker. How about the awards? We got awards?
We do. We have a fight of the night and we have 2 performances of the night. I am not sure I agree with them, but I'm not mad at them.
Okay. All right. I think fight of the night has to be Billy Goff and Waters. Performance. I think these are easy today. That's why I'm sorry. They must not be, like, I must be predicting them wrong, but to me, this should be pretty easy. Esteban Ribovitz, high kick, and Carl Sorberg 12-second knockout. Like, it has to be those. Like, to me, those are, and then Waters and Goff put on a freaking incredible war.
Yeah.
So what would you tell me? What you, before you say what they are, tell me what you would have done.
Okay, this is almost unfair because I'm kind of moving multiple moving pieces, but I'm fine with fight of the night being Goff and Waters. My second choice for that would have been Fajeda and Rubeski, which I know you didn't get a chance to see, but it was actually a really fun fight as well. It wasn't quite as back and forth, but it had a swing of momentum, which also lends a certain drama. But then the performances of the night that they gave were to Olberg and Fajeda. So I'm all for taking that performance bonus away from Fajeda, giving it to Ribovitz, but giving Fajeda fight of the night.
Okay. So what was Goff and
Goff and Waters was the fight of the night?
You're telling me Esteban Ribovitz lands a high kick knockout that he did and got nothing for it? Did he even was in the cage 15 G's? And I'm like, all right, dude, you got that one.
That's what I'm saying, man. How does he, Ninja Kitty, how does he not get a bonus for that kick? Ninja Kitty is all of us right now. Oh, by the way, I remember the quote. It was Sherdog associate editor Jay Petrie in the Sherdog Slack said that his dad texted him. Apparently his dad follows the sport to a certain extent and said, I like how McKinney's looking down at his arms, but clearly can't move them.
Jay's dad texted him?
Dad texted him.
At first I was talking about Ribovitz's dad texted Jay Petrie. I was like, wow.
Jay's connected. Did he train in Alaska?
What did he say? I like how he wasn't moving his arms.
I like how McKinney's looking down at his arms, but he clearly can't move them. Because you remember he was like stiff like this. And I said, like, his soul came back into his body like in stages.
He looked like my daughter when she came out. So my daughter broke her leg like 2 years ago. It was really bad. You know about it. She broke her ankle really, really bad. She had to have, my middle kid, she had to have multiple surgeries and rods and all kinds of shit. And she looked like how she was when she was waking up out of the surgery, like mumbling and not making sense.
Kids coming out of anesthesia is comedy gold. Is this gonna be forever? Oh, so good. Okay, JP Taylor. That high kick was the most spectacular thing that happened.
I agree.
That's the beginning and end of the conversation. Like, that was the highlight of the entire night. How does that not get a bonus? Our homie Big Marcel, both Hooper and Ribovitz deserve bonuses. I'm not mad at that either, and always good to have Marcel drop in on us. Marcel is an example of like a European who can hang. We noticed that the Porsche's already gone. It's Betty by time. Marcel, Marcel is just good hanging out with us.
It's like,
and Marcel is like another time zone at least past UK time because he's in the Netherlands. So yeah.
Yeah. So what is that like?
Oh no, never mind. Porsche's still here. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. What is he, like 6 or 7 a.m.?
He would have to tell us.
Yeah, and I mean, it's breakfast time. Like, he's gonna. Yeah, he's got. Yeah, I mean, where he lives, it's breakfast time. He's got to go out in the barn and collect the egg, and and from the pick up the chicken and pull the egg out, and then he's got to walk like a mile to to the well and pump some water for him, so he can shower. Ben's not liking my joke. He's not paying attention.
Well, I'm also trying to field the chat,
Yeah, my continual third world country jokes. All right, let's get to the dude seriouslys. You have some dude seriouslys?
Well, you already mentioned the one. I've got one for sure.
All right.
Veronica Hardy pulls off the decision win over JJ Aldrich. As a couple people in the chat mentioned, shows more than ever that she should probably not be fighting in the curtain jerker of any card anymore. And she gets her post-fight interview, and Michael Bisping goes, "You're 3-0 in the UFC." Now, either Bisping does not understand that Veronica Hardy and Veronica Macedo are the same person, like he hasn't put those two things together, or he meant to say, since returning from being a mediocre fighter.
Yeah.
Like, don't bury that part, because it makes her more admirable and more interesting that she's had this turnaround after being such an afterthought. It makes it mean so much more. It also bears out the UFC's decision to have like more women's weight classes, so she's not fighting the Taylor Smiths of the world. It was so weird. Just for Bisping to go, "You're 3-0 in the UFC, blah blah blah." Like,
it'd be really funny if you're like, all right, we're gonna talk to Tisha Pennington. Hey, Tisha, so UFC debut, you didn't
you're 0-1.
You didn't get a win. You feel like you're gonna get cut or something? Oh, this thing. All right, I gotta call dude seriously. Brandon Fitzgerald with a Sharknado reference, dude. Seriously, and a dude dude, seriously, nice job, man. Very dad joke. How about I got one? I don't know. I might get myself. Okay, you know what? I'm not saying this one.
Oh, come on.
No. I'm not
okay.
I definitely would have got fired. This one might be pretty bad too. How come Joaquin Buckley going? He's screaming, "Everybody stand up!" And his freaking opponent is praying right in front of him. Michael Bisping had to go around him. Dude, seriously, come on.
That was interesting.
Yeah, that's a much watered down than what I had. All right, and the last one. I didn't see who did it, but dude, whoever on the media, bro, caught Derrick Lewis's cup. Dude, seriously, that's gross.
And this is not the first time he's done that. He threw it in the Apex once, and I was worried that because that was caught by a fan. I was worried the fan was going to drink a beer out of it. He was going to do a cuppy and come on, guys. If you keep encouraging this, Derrick Lewis is 2 wins away from being completely buck naked in the octagon. We just going a little farther each time.
I just I always think when the guy throws they rip out their mouthpiece and throw the guy, and it's someone catching. You want some gross saliva mouthpiece, but then the freaking cup, that's even worse.
He had Lewis sign it. He told Lewis it didn't smell bad, and he had Dana sign it. That's
gross. That's not even worse.
And that's journalism.
That's fucking weird.
For you. That's
weird. Who do we know who it is?
Was it Robbie Fox from Barstool?
Who was it? I hope I know the person. And I hope we can rag on him. We can rag. That's gross. That's really gross. Let's see if we can find out who that.
Hopefully, it's somebody from a local St. Louis paper.
Yeah, it probably is. Someone we didn't know. I don't think
it was not somebody from Sherdog.
No. It was Dev. Dev. Some local guy. Okay.
Some local. All right.
Let's get the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market reference. When things are going good, it's a bull market. Everything's going bad, it's a bear market. You want to be on the Bulls. You don't want to be in the Bears. We do it hockey style. Stars of the night. 3, 2, 1. Let's do Bulls first. Let's be positive.
Okay.
Do you mind if I go first?
Go for it.
I'm gonna go with Chase Hooper.
Heck yeah.
The dude's won 3 in a row now, 24 years old. We're starting to believe in this guy. Chase Hooper's stock continues to rise. My number 2, how about St. Louis? They went 3-0 on the night. That was Buckley, Sean Woodson, and Charles Johnson, the hometown guys, right? There's nobody else from the hometown, right? Than those three, right?
It was just those three, and two of them had kind of close decisions, close, maybe verging on controversial.
But
Buckley left. Yeah, they got the win.
If you're a hometown guy, you're feeling pretty good. Yep. And my number one, how about Carlos Ulberg, 12-second knockout? How about Carlos Diego Ferreira turning back the clocks? He's on a 2-fight winning streak. Carlos is. Nice job. Ben, who you got?
I agree with all of yours. So all I will add in is Esteban Ribovics. Like, it was going to be a wild fight, and both guys are known for reckless offense, but he was the guy probably less likely to pull off the 30-second highlight reel knockout, and he did so. This is one that's going to show up on his reel for as long as he sticks around in the UFC, and he's a guy that I already thought had more ultimate upside than McKinney anyway, coming into this fight, so big ups to him. A couple of mine matched up with yours, so I'll just say old Texans, Diego Ferreira, Derrick Lewis, both 39 years old, both at least representing Texas, even though Lewis came from Louisiana, Ferreira came from Brazil. Ferreira has been living in Texas for like 15 years at this point. Both turned back the clock. Both looked damn good. Both got the knockout. Both got their hands raised.
All right, let's go to the Bears. These are the ones who had a bad night. You still don't want to be on this. So you don't want to be on this list. Ben, kick it off.
Oh, Bears. Slava Borshov, his shortcomings had already been made manifest. He wasn't going to step in here and be a Rafael Fiziev where, yeah, I'm kind of a one-dimensional guy, but I'm so good at that one dimension and I'm so athletic that only the elite of the elite are going to be able to take advantage of it. That was already known not to be the case, but in kind of getting washed by Chase Hooper, all the shine is really off. He's just another guy, and he's a guy that might show up on a cut list near you soon. Certainly, he is the guy that has picked up less wrestling after an equal amount of time at Team Alpha Male as anybody I can think of. And then, if you let me go first, I'm going to go through, UFC St. Louis exposed with both of them. Mateusz Rebecki, the guy racked together 16 or 17 wins in a row. A lot of them were just dominant pastings of middling guys in Europe, but he had looked pretty damn impressive even after getting to the UFC as a latter-day modern incarnation of like a 2005 style wrestle boxer. Like, so much about his style just made me think of, a 2005 kind of American former college wrestler who learned an overhand. That came to a screeching halt here just because, well, for one thing, he kind of wilted and got the fight taken away from him by a 39-year-old man. He'll get some more chances. He's still a good fighter. He's still only 31, but this sets him way back in terms of any possible ranking or title contention. And obviously, number one would have to be Robelas de Spain. Again, I knew somebody was going to try this sooner or later. I just thought it would be much, much later, like at least 2 fights, if not 3 fights later. I figured he would get up into a top 10 matchup before he ran into somebody with the skill and the will to just take advantage of his miserable ground game. I was wrong, and his ground game is even more miserable than I thought. And in hindsight, whether Despain turns out to be a good fighter in the end or turns out to wash out, getting out wrestled this badly by Waldo Cortez Acosta is going to age terribly because Acosta will not land another takedown in his entire UFC run.
Let's hope not. If he does, he's going.
Let's hope not is the perfect way to put it.
Because someone's wrestling's real bad.
Yeah.
I'll throw a couple more out there. Terrence McKinney. I mean, yeah, there was a time he had hype. He was on a nice knockout streak. Even like a loss of Drew Dober, it was still like, wow, like, do you see how he was piecing up Drew Dober? And those days are long gone. We got people asking questions if he should be cut. My number 2, I agree, obviously, like Robles, Despain, Rebecki, and all the ones you mentioned are obviously on my list too, but I'm trying to mix it up. I'll go Jake Hadley. This is a guy that had a lot of hype. Again, he's still fairly young, but I mean, this guy, some people thought he was going to be a contender in flyweight. He's not a 2-fight win streak. He's fighting for a spot in the roster.
He came to the UFC at the same time as Makayev, and while we were all higher in Makayev, I was like, these guys might end up being the Rockhold and Weidman of the flyweight division 5 years from now.
Yeah, he was the brash guy coming in from England with the big mouth, and now it's like he's not even getting Mike put. He's second fight of the night. And then my number one bear. Everyone has always complained about ESPN Plus. I've had problems with it too. I've never had it where I lost like as long portions. I mean, it was out for like a half hour for me. So screw you, ESPN Plus. So, all right. What was your grade of the card?
C-.
Like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, just there were one or two good fights. There were a couple of spectacular highlights. I didn't feel like when I learned anything about a fighter, it was almost invariably negative. So I just had this depressed feeling at the end of it. Honestly, if it weren't for like Lewis coming around and knocking out Nascimento and taking 75% of his clothes off, I might have given it a D, but maybe I'm just grouchy tonight.
Yeah, I think you are, because I give it much higher. I give it B-. Like, I thought we had an incredible knockout. We had a fight of the year candidate. I think, a couple other knockouts with Alberg and Derrick Lewis. I don't remember being bored tonight, other than the Despain. But even the Despain loss, it wasn't that I was bored. I was more like I learned something. Like, I shouldn't say I learned something, but it was more like, okay, yeah, the hype is over. This guy. So it was like confirmation, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't one like oh, this fight sucks. Like, even some of the fights that weren't the best, there was close split decisions, or really controversial who won this one. So, and then you know what? It's the crowd, man. It went from where it was just a normal thing with the crowds to like exciting, hearing people cheering, having moments, yelling out on the mic, like Buckley was doing and stuff. So, I'll give it a B-, just for our buddy Big Marcel doesn't know what we're talking about. That's like B- is like an 82 out of 100.
Yeah, he gave it a 7 out of 10, so that's like a C-.
Yeah. All right, I already gave my listener of the night to Ninja Kitty for that one Honky Tonk Man line.
The Honky Tonk Man line is amazing.
That was good. Who's your listener tonight?
It was really live here. Got a few people that we haven't seen before. Pokemon Payback, like, who apparently was at the event live. Just
nice.
Yeah. Like,
let's get that.
Dude, in the arena, I bet it was an A.
Yeah, give us your grade, Pokemon. Let's see what you guys.
Yeah. Give us your grade.
It definitely changes. Being live, they say hockey's like that, and they say they say horse racing like lives, and I actually been doing horse racing, but I mean like the big ones, like if you go to a Kentucky Derby, it's cool on TV, but like in person, it's like even crazier.
MMA says betting leaderboard it is here and has the grace not to tell me how I'm doing after going 4-8 on the night. I don't even want to know right now. I like Marcus Mustard. I don't know how many times I've given him listener of the night, but
yeah, he
made a bunch of some predictions on the preview that in large part played out, came to collect his flowers here. You get my listener of the night for being perpetually kind of down for everything we do. We really appreciate you showing up and hanging with us. Like, if this is just Keith and me talking into our screens and quacking into the void, it really isn't nearly as much fun.
No.
So yeah, it goes to Marcus Mustard. And by the way, Portia, now that you have a segment named after you, you're retired from being
you can't
win anymore. Yeah.
So there you guys have it. We have recapped all 12 fights. Do all that fun stuff that you'll do for us that you like it, share it, comment, do all that stuff to get the bosses happy. Let's us beat those algorithms and all that stuff. So make us happy, and let us keep doing this every week.
Apparently I cleaned out the pros. Luckily, he called the season before tonight because we'd have to. I guess I won the thing.
But yeah, we'll be back. We'll be taping UFC at the Apex, Edson Barbosa versus Lerone Murphy card. That's not what you expect to hear, but we'll be going as deep on that card as you've ever seen. If you've only seen the recap, you definitely check out the preview show. It's the most, I believe, it's the most in-depth preview show in the entire world. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back recapping that card, Barbosa versus Lerone Murphy, this time next week. See ya.